Hello and welcome to CTN. To learn more about the show, please visit CIOTalkNetwork.com. And our topic for today is rather fascinating one, which is low-code AI apps, enabling innovation, ensuring control. So the context is that everyone in business and in life is using AI to some degree. And then the next level of evolution seems like that earlier when we had the regular technology created, then IT took all the control and it tried to run it in a very methodical, very safe, very structured manner. And that is fine, but it also kind of slowed things down for many. So then the next step was to introduce low code so that you could democratize building apps of any kind so that business productivity increases and AI is not basically the regular technology is not holding us back. So then the same thing is being attempted in the AI domain. Now, AI is not as mature as the regular technology. The standards are still being developed. The governance, the security, the quality, the ethics, all of that is being discussed. Jury's out on a lot of different areas for AI adoption. So, with this as a context, the goal here is to explore what would it look like in a world where we are building low-code AI apps, handing over the reins to the business, still while creating the underlying foundation so that we don't lose our shirt in the process and create the most value for the business that we serve. So to discuss this, I have with me Udit Pahwa, who is the Chief Information Officer for Blue Star Limited. Hey Udit, how are you?
Hi, Sanjog. I'm good. Thank you for having me here.
Honor is ours, and as you see, the context is rather interesting one, and it's timely, and it is an important one. And so let's jump right into it. So my first question would be that when we are going into the low code, or when we were going into low code from the regular app development in IT, and then we got into the low code, and you've had experience doing it, what was the shift that was needed? I'm sure it was way more than tech.
Yeah, I think low code framework is a shift away from the regular pro code framework, as it is called, where you use a lot of code to generate or create the application. One thing is low code requires the agile way of working. So you quickly develop something, run a prototype, test it, and then get back with the results and improvise it. So the development time that is required using a low code is quite shortened. And there is only so much that you can do with a low code in terms of the scalability of complexities as opposed to a pro code. So in that context, I think when we use low code framework, the shift that is needed or the mindset that is needed is a judgmental call whether the requirement that I am going to fulfill falls in the domain of low code for at least the next 3 to 5 years, or should I go pro code, keeping scalability and growth in mind. So it's the judgmental call that is needed.
Now, given the way you described it, and rightfully so in the regular technology, and that's what we ought to be doing, so that we have the right portfolio, the right candidates, if you will, which we should move to low code. Now, let's switch gears to the newer world that we are all living in.
Yeah.
People are trying to be very careful. They're trying to be very structured. In fact, many areas of AI, they don't even fathom yet, right? They don't understand fully, or they're trying to figure out what to do, and in fact, making things more complicated. Even the field of AI itself is morphing at a crazy pace, if you will.
Yeah.
So, if any organization was to dabble into it, do you think this is an ambitious or rather a suicidal mission to go for low-code AI apps?
I wouldn't term it as a suicidal mission. This obviously you need to try, fail, learn, and then try again. And low code will help you, as it is, as the famous saying goes in the industry, fail fast, learn fast. So using a low code framework for building AI apps will help you fail fast and learn fast so that you can deliver better. So I would put it that, you can start taking baby steps on building the AI apps using the low code framework. It's not going to be a suicidal mission.
And if we, so this is good, a vote of confidence coming from you that it's okay for us to jump in because we know there will be mistakes and the learnings happen, and then that's how we evolve. Now, when somebody goes to that level, do you think we have mastered or rather come close enough to having a control on the pro code level? Because only when you can do it is when you can start simplifying. So has AI development or AI app development or anything else we are doing with AI, we've been dabbling with it for since what, November 2022, roughly? So it's been roughly coming to 2.5 years. It's not trivial amount of time. If you were to pass a verdict on the state of AI maturity / the state of maturity of the people who are building apps and using it, where do we stand before we say, okay, go ahead and start dabbling into low code?
So comparing the maturity of pro code framework with a low code framework. So there's no set rule which says that if you've matured in using pro code or heavy code applications, you start with a low code application. Myself, I can give an example. When I started using the low code frameworks way back in 2017, we did very heavily use pro code frameworks, but we realized that agility is required for a faster delivery of applications which are lesser complex and are needed for very bespoke specific purposes. So that is one differentiation point. The other point for low code frameworks is it helps you democratize the development. That is, you can, the industry term that is used is citizen developers. So whereby you give the ability to the business users to build the apps themselves. That's the advantage which it brings along in its fold. Obviously, this has to be done in a certain proper methodical way, and we can dwell on that.
So if we are looking at the pro code level, and if you were to say the way AI pro code effort is going on currently, what would you say is the state of maturity of that? And I know you disconnected the two, but then overzealous approach will also not help us, because pro code forces you to look under the hood a lot more in detail, so that when you build something in low code, you know that you're not creating or introducing bugs in the system as you give the access or the control to the business user.
Yeah. So this is an interesting question. We have applications and LLMs which help us build pro code applications as well, and that is where the whole proliferation of using AI to build AI apps started. A classic example, if you're allowed to take names, if that's okay, is Mistral. Mistral is one of the early, I would say, service providers where you could just go and give a prompt saying, I'm building an application so-and-so, this is the functionality, these are the details, etc. Give me the Java code. And it gives you the Java code. Now, obviously, this will come with its own pros and cons, and that will require a good amount of what I would term it as, in audit terms, a maker checker. So while somebody has made it, it has to go through a human eye, and it has to go through a proper QA as a checker process.
Okay. Now, if you were to look at the almost like the benchmark, right? So what should be ready? We may not be comparing it to pro code maturity, but what all should be ready for the low code AI apps initiative to be kicked off within an organization, in your view?
I think it's very important to establish the guardrails of who does what within what boundaries. As far as using low code for AI apps, there should be a control, ideally on the templates, because AI will let you generate anything and everything, right? So you need to put together a method and process which will have a common template or will gel with all the other, let me call it the theme of your development. If it is allowed to run on its own, it can go against the theme. So let me compare this with the coding standards of the Pro Code framework. Every Pro Code framework is guided by certain coding standards. Whereas if I use AI apps to be built by AI, we will have to bring in this governance to keep it within the coding frameworks. So those are the guardrails that we will need to establish.
Now, very interestingly, you bring this term guardrail, which is in a way synonymously used for the governance side of it, right?
Yeah.
And when you take vanilla AI, yes, at least you're taking first, second, and the second step and the third step. But now the world has already moved to agentic AI already in the last 6 to 9 months. And there has been a serious concern that when you're trying to go from one to another, and even we did a discussion on, like we have a metabolism happening when we eat food. There are different things happening one after another, and they're autonomously happening, but our body knows what needs to happen. And if I put something in my tummy, it doesn't eat the lining itself and the right kind of cells, the energy goes into bloodstream, etc., etc. So there is some guardrails, some nature has built some sort of governance. But then when it comes to agentic AI, we do not know in many cases, let alone be able to govern on how one thing is going to another. And there is an attempt, and it's not done yet. And now, if we talk about low-code AI apps, should we take baby steps to say, let's not build an agentic AI low-code app and just stay to where we have control over the governance? Only then it would make sense to hand it over to a business user.
So that's a very interesting question and analogy you brought about the human anatomy and biology, right? The body knows how to process, what to process, when to process, and how not to damage. You speak about agentic AI. The fact that the modern day offerings and platforms allow everybody to build an agent on their own. How is that built? If you see, it's almost like normal English. You're writing in English and asking the agent to perform certain tasks. You're giving it an objective, you're giving it a goal, and you're telling what calculations need to be done or what tasks need to be done in what sequence, etc. So to that extent, we know what needs to be done. But since it is going to use some kind of a predefined algorithm, we are not sure what's going to be the result. So in this case, once you start taking the path to building agentic AI using low code, agentic AI, in my opinion, itself is a form of a low code if you build it on the platform provided by many of the OEMs. What needs to be done is to put in the governance of, again, as I mentioned, the maker checker, right? Whatever has been created for the agent needs to be reviewed in terms of what it is returning as an output. So that's again brings us back to the governance part.
And how much of that governance, because if somebody's building any app, right, whether low code or pro code, you give control of how it needs to be governed, what conditions should apply, etc. And I'm assuming that we would have business users, when given the regular non-AI apps, then that maturity and what are the guardrails to be created and what should be handed over to the business users was figured out. But if we at pro code level itself are not ready with giving that guardrail, so are you going to create or suggest creating a hybrid approach to say, hey folks, I will give you the capability, Mr. Business User, to create your low-code AI, but the governance standards will be forced well in advance, or there will be a next stage where the governance audit of sorts would be conducted before it's put out, versus giving that power in the hands of the business user.
No, absolutely. So it is an established fact that the business domain user knows their domain better. So giving the power of developing any kind of an application for their business function will obviously be a better choice. However, as you mentioned, there needs to be a governance. And so before the app is actually put to use, there needs to be a process followed, which typically in our pro code, in our pro code world, we call it as, the testing and QA, right? So a similar approach of checking what the business or the citizen developer has created in terms of testing out with the data as to what's the output and whether it is on expected lines or not. That's the governance that will need to be put in, not by the same person who is creating the app. It has to be someone else. So in this case, if we split the roles, the business domain gets to build, but the technology and the security team get to test and decide on the efficacy or the compliance to the governance standards.
Now, when we are looking at the ethical dilemmas that always have been persisting even in the pro code or whatever, wherever AI comes, the ethical dilemmas are always brought up. Then security, and then also the compliance, right? Now, those things are the ones, especially in an enterprise context. Frankly, if you went to the CEO and asked, hey, I enabled your business team, but then you will be audited and you might pay a heavy fine, or you will be on a front page of a newspaper because you failed those other tests. Nobody would agree. So do you think having the ethics, the security, the privacy, and the other compliance related things, can they be baked in somehow so that business user, no matter what they try to do and to achieve their business needs, do not intentionally or unintentionally create the security and the ethics and the privacy related bugs, if you will, in the system? How do you manage something like that?
So I would say when you are preparing your platform for allowing the business users to start using no-code framework for building AI apps, the platform itself needs to be enabled with the guardrails. You need the platform to enforce data privacy. You need the platform to be able to explain what is the thought going on or how the construct is happening, and ensure that the data sets which are used are non-biased. So thereby you are removing the bias, and you are trying to, by putting data privacy, you try and enforce some sort of governance towards the data privacy laws. And in terms of ethics, I think ethics can be or rather need to be enforced again at the platform level itself, because expecting the business users to start worrying about all this and trying to build this in would be too early. So the platform that you adopt for enabling the business users needs to take care of all this.
So in that, and then building upon it, so we talk about responsible AI, we speak about explainable AI. And there has been a tug of war to say, hey, if I try to make any AI model which is explainable, then we are in a way undermining its true power, because it might be able to connect, like we have our neurons connect autonomously. They do much better job versus we trying to make things too structured. So we have not yet reached a point where explainability has been fully implemented. And if it has, then it has traditionally been told to all of us that it undermines what the true power of AI. And you want to give your best weapons to the business people so they can create the most compelling apps. So when we are not ready with those models, with our explainability is still in question, are we ready yet for the business users to build something? Because you said responsibility cannot be handed over to the business guys.
Yeah, ideally no. And you're right. Explainability is something which is still evolving. We've seen, I think over the past 12 to 18 months, how, when you are using any algorithm, it goes through and tells, fetching the data, analyzing your this. So now that explainability is coming, and it also gives you the source. So that I would say it, even though it is still evolving, it's you can wait till the cows come home is one approach. Or you can start small, as I mentioned earlier, is take those baby steps, fail fast and learn fast. So that would be my go-to approach. Go for it, try it out in very small, simple use cases, and try and see what are the results.
So, question for you: like this, fail fast is used to very fail quick, fail small, fail fast is a terminology used in innovation and also in IT, where people like to geek out and they want to experiment. But if you traditionally go into any business domain and talk to the business people, the last thing they want is unpredictability. They want to be able to do something faster, quicker, better. But the last thing they ever want, and if you notice any conversations you would have had with your business counterparts, they simply don't like
Yes.
that. That's not their mindset. So, do you think you would want to ever go to a business guy to say, hey, let's make a new mistake together?
So the statement is not consciously said, let's make a new mistake together. The statement I would say is, let's try it out. There are chances we succeed, there are chances we fail. But in this way, we'll learn and we will be able to improvise and move on with a better model. And the shorter time we take to learn what are our mistakes, it will shorten our journey to reach to the right level.
And do you think business shows that level of patience and that level of camaraderie?
Yes and no. It would depend on the use case. It would depend on which business function you're working with. For example, if you're working with legal, then there is no scope of failing fast and learning fast, right? Because it has other implications. But if you are, let's say, in targeted marketing, where you are looking at segmented marketing for a particular audience, that is where you can fail fast and learn fast. So it would again be very, I would say, business function use case specific. But yes, the conversations. So your question was, is the business accommodative? I think with all the clamor about AI and how AI is revolutionizing, of course, there's an equal discussion now going on that by 2027, as Gartner has reported, that AI will start going down. Nevertheless, we're still 2.5 years away. Business is accommodative at the moment, but it is again depending on what is the use case and what is the function.
So when business tries to help in a way to help get better AI adoption, but their KRA and KPIs are not, their performance appraisal is not connected to it. Is there a better way to get them to sing kumbaya with IT?
Yeah, so generally, traditional wisdom says that you tie up your KPIs and KRAs with whatever is a deliverable. But in your question is, if it is not their KPI, KRA, and yet keep them interested, then it always boils down to answering the question, what is in it for me? And once that question is answered, half your battle is won. So if you are able to, and that's the approach I follow, if you are able to get down to the discussion and explain the benefits of the proposed, let me call it co-development with the business and how it is going to benefit the person as an individual and his function as a whole, then whether or not if it is included in his KRA, if you show the value, then you have him on board.
So I'll draw an analogy. Suppose you had a sketching competition going on and you tell the business, go ahead, here is a pencil. The best pencil I could create, I'm giving it to you. Go draw and make us proud. The person goes, they start and the pencil breaks. Who owns the responsibility of them not winning the sketching competition?
I think in this case, it's going to be a joint responsibility. Even though the tool was provided by me, the onus of using that tool effectively is on the user or the business side. So either the tool was bad, or the drawing was, or the pressure applied to the tool was in excess, keeping with the analogy. Now that is all post-mortem, whether it was the tool's problem or whether it was the paper or whether it was the pressure, etc. Right? But when is it decided that I will give you a pencil and you go and draw to win, it's a joint call that we are taking. So I think if we put the racing metrics, it would be 50-50.
And like while you mentioned that the business guys have to get the answer to what's in it for me, but then they are also to be educated in your view that, hey, while you get these cool benefits, but it does come with some risk, are you willing to accept the risk? And is this...
Yes.
And while you would want to convey that, but given where we are with the journey and the way AI is evolving, and they are not only hearing the cool stories, but also horror stories.
Correct.
So what is your way of making them feel warm and fuzzy that they are willing to go to that sketching competition with the pencil you provide?
As I mentioned, all the initiatives should carry a very clearly defined RACI metrics. Who does what, who's responsible for what, etc. But the ownership lies jointly. So I would say, even if in the case of risk, the risk that we carry must align with the accountability, and that accountability would come from the RACI metrics.
So it's in writing, it is pre-agreed, and that's how you push forward.
Correct.
And so your workflow, just so that if somebody is saying, okay, this is low code, you give it to them each time when they're about to create the kind of app that they wish to, that will still need to be kind of vetted to say whether our platform is ready to go to that extent. And for each of them, you would itemize the risks and get their, almost opt-in before they go jump in.
Yeah,
because it's not one size fit all, right? Because there are not all use cases when given to business would be actionable given the state of the platforms that we may have at any given time, because the platforms themselves are evolving.
Correct. So at the start, risk assessment is a continuous activity, right? You assess your risk and quantify them at the start of the initiative. And as you go through and you meet your milestones or toll gates, and when you're ready also is you reassess what is the risk now. So that's since it's a continuous process, you keep updating it, and the risks again are shared and defined upfront. So to that extent, I would say that's the method and process to follow.
And over time, whether low code or pro code, every organization likes reusability, no wastage, and hopefully some form of a gold standard that we create of the kind of apps and tools floating around, right? Your whole stack, if you will.
Correct.
Now, and this could be actually true for even pre-AI, that when you allow every business team to start building the regular low-code apps, they can go nuts and they can try to build any and everything, and you get a ton of different apps sitting with maybe duplication across the enterprise, or some better, some not as better, but then collective intelligence and collaboration across business typically is not happening and silos appear. So when we are looking at proliferation of low-code AI apps within the organization with different people coding it differently, even though the same platform is used, what lessons can we bring from the pre-AI or non-AI app low-code adoption across enterprise to remove, duplication or maintain security and other good things we can apply to the low-code AI app initiative?
So I think to answer this point of yours, we can take a leaf out of the existing DevOps, MLOps, or SecOps, or DevSecOps. There's too many terms today, but essentially all of them have a prescribed methodology. And what these DevOps operations do is they help you standardize, templatize. So the same approach needs to be built into the platform, which ensures, or rather which will foster reusability and will give out a template. So if I have to give you an example, when we use the low code framework, you have the option of enabling a build by wizard. So when you give that as a starting point, you are ensuring that the user is going to follow a set pattern or a template. Thereby, you don't have the whole thing running wild here and there, and you have different forms, different patterns, different themes, different look and feel coming up. So that's one way to take care of it.
So in the beginning, when we spoke about the AI apps, we also spoke about how you recommended, and we have to see which application or which use cases are better off moved to low code.
Low code, yeah.
Right. And here also, given we are trying to get into this low code AI app journey, but then similar logic could apply to say which is the suitability. But now the difference is today it may not be suitable, tomorrow it might be suitable. So do we wait and watch, or we build something which is a 0.9 app and get going, and basically as the AI models evolve, the different technologies evolve, we proactively build the less than the ideal low-code app and not wait till you say like till the cows come home. We don't wait forever.
So technology delivery is never 100%. You will always have some sort of percentage left out, and that's what comes up in the next version. Business evolves, technology evolves. So you will never have 100% ready and 100% foolproof application that you build. So you're absolutely right. Probably when you hit 90-95%, covering your business requirement, you can go ahead and start deploying. And as technology evolves, it will require some revisiting. As business evolves, it will require some revisiting. And that's when you will have a refreshed version of the same application coming out. Maybe you can have a release cycle. Maybe look at it every 6 months or every 3 months, depending on, again, what business process, how dynamic it is, and what technology you have adopted on.
So in context of initiating this low-code AI app wave within the organization, and I'm sure you talk to your peers across other industries and companies, and you may be dabbling in some of that internally. Any specific challenges that our audience could benefit from learning on the ground, which they can proactively start inventorying and perhaps start figuring out a way to tackle them?
Yeah, so if we are looking at a low-code AI apps path, one thing which is getting extremely spoken about, and you mentioned it as well, is agentic AI, which is one form of a low-code framework for development. Now the question is, what is the prerequisites or the groundworks that you need to do? The first and foremost is find the applicable use case, because you will have anybody and everybody talking about an agentic AI or building an agent. But you need to be sure that the agent that you're building is fit to your purpose and solves a genuine business pain point, and not adopting it for the sake of adopting it. That's point number one. Now, having identified the use case, the interoperability, or I would say the integration, which the agent would need to span across different disparate databases to weave together the function that you're asking that agent to do, is the second challenge. The correlation of the task that you are giving to the agent to go to multiple sources of information, gather them, stitch them together, decide, and then take the action, those need to be very well architected, and the data needs to be in good shape. It will never be excellent. The whole world suffers from data quality, and that is given. So the architecture of integration is the key for the agentic AI to function successfully. So two things. One is identifying the appropriate pain point to be resolved using an agentic framework. And the second is to allow the agentic AI framework to function very well. The various sources of information need to be integrated very well.
So I'm sure when you started your journey with the low-code, non-AI apps, there were some changes, some change management, some leadership, some management-related muscles you might have to flex or build even from scratch. What were those, and how would you compare that to the new muscles that the leader today who wants to take this off, and the muscles that their lieutenants and the teams under them, they have to build for this to be to be kicked off in the right way and hopefully get the most value from it?
So if we talk about, let me call it pre-COVID and post-COVID, because that is one milestone we can talk about. In the non-AI low-code framework, skill was an issue at that point in time. When I'm talking about, say, 2017-18, getting the right skill, which is an even bigger problem today. But you could get a pro-code developer quickly learn the low-code framework and start adopting and using it. So the migration from a pro-code to a low-code in terms of the workforce was a bit of a challenge at that point in time. And as the time progressed and low-code gained popularity, you have resources who have worked only on low-code and have not worked on pro-code. Now, those resources, when you try to put them into the AI framework, follow the same kind of legacy what we faced with pro-code trying to adopt to low-code. So again, it comes down to relearning and skill. And AI is all about efficient prompt engineering. Even if I talk about agentic AI, essentially what you're asking or building the agent to do is nothing but very good prompting inside that whole English that you're writing for the agent. So in terms of muscle flexing, I think skills is the biggest muscle that you need to flex from managing the whole thing.
And from a leadership mindset, is this business as usual, or there are some newer, not complicated, but the very fact that it is an uncharted territory for many, even though we have been on this journey for 2.5 years, but there are so many new things that pop up, new, unique areas that we have to think about, new dimensions, if you will.
I think when the technology is ever evolving and it does not have a fixed shape or direction, the biggest challenge, as you put it, nobody in the sales like uncertainty. Same way in technology, we don't like uncertainty. So when you're going down a path, making a few assumptions, you would just want that assumptions hold true. But if the technology is evolving and changing and those assumptions don't stand true, then you're hit with a wall or a challenge. So that's, I think, one thing that we need to be very cognizant of. And that is the risk that one takes for adopting these frameworks.
Once again, thank you so much, Udit, for sharing your thoughts and insights about this low-code AI apps journey that many organizations are willing to start and are perhaps already in the process. And all the insights that you shared were very, very useful and very pertinent. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Sanjog. It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
And for our audience, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, podcasts, and anywhere and everywhere where we exist. Thank you so much again. This is Sanjog Aul, your host, signing off. Till next time, take care and God bless.